Hello, this is Justin Peterson, as assessing students with special needs. First, legality. In 1975, Education for All Handicapped Children Act was passed. This meant individuals with special needs should be placed in the least restrictive environment, or LRE, possible. In 1990, Individual with Disabilities Education Act passed. States must ensure that students with special needs are educated to the maximum extent possible with students who are not disabled. This meant generally inclusion in regular classrooms. The result of these three laws is that the students with special needs tend to be mainstreamed in normal classrooms. Students can only be removed from the class when their disability prevents satisfactory instruction. More legality. In 1986, protections and rights of the All Handicapped Children Act extended to preschoolers 3 to 5. In 1992, Americans with Disability Act was passed, which increased accessibility to services and public features, but was not necessarily looking at education methods. In 1997, the IDEA Act, or the Individuals with Disabilities Education Amendment. The amendments, as seen below, increase parental participation and involvement, ensuring student access to the general curriculum, or mainstreaming, preventing inappropriate identification and mislabeling, using mediation to resolve disputes and disagreements between parents and educators, ensuring the rights of students and their parents throughout the process, enhancement of student learning as determined through accountability mechanisms, providing fair assessment of limited English proficiency students using many and varied assessments, and enhancement of individualized planning in the IEP. The effects were that teachers now regularly implement individualized education plans as a legally binding plan that specifies a given individual's level of skill, knowledge, goals, short-term objectives, special services, evaluation procedure, and education programs that might be needed. These must currently document the academic achievement and functional performance of the students, detailing how the student's disability affects the student's education. Assessment must be planned and conducted so the disability does not contribute to the result. Basically, tests and assessments must be fair. So that specific problems, those problems could be countered and not worked around. In assessing students for identification, the assessments must adhere to legal requirements. It requires inclusion of multidisciplinary evaluations in teams. There are several methods for evaluation, but all must include at least one teacher or specialist and must be based on scientifically proven methods. Below is a chart from our books, which kind of details the general process. I encourage you to pause and look at it if you like. We're going to move on for the moment. People often involved in the Discovery team are listed below. For us, it's mostly going to be us, the general teacher, usually a special education teacher or the counselors, and others as listed. This process takes a couple of steps. First is pre-referral. A teacher would make a tentative diagnosis based on what they observe in the class. A team then generally reviews the diagnosis and collects additional information. The team, which includes the teacher, works together to make an intervention that is usually implemented by the teacher who made the initial referral. Additional interventions, modifications, or assessments will be used as needed to determine a student's ongoing needs and address problems that occur. Schools often implement tiered instruction, which use differing levels of intervention depending on the needs of the student. Most schools use 3 tiers. Tier 1 refers to high-quality instructional behavior supports for all children in general ed. Measures the rate of academic growth of all students in comparison to students from around the nation. Basically, information is gathered about all students and compared to everybody from school districts around the country who are also doing this to get a general idea of what people are, how people are achieving. Curriculum-based measurement, or CBM, is used to determine a struggling student's overall achievement and growth in comparison to their peers. Tier 2 interventions are provided in the general classroom, giving students remedial education or specialized intervention, usually done by the teacher, but sometimes with assistants or helpers. Tier 3 is even more individualized, but it's not yet special education. While it can occur in general ed setting, it may also be done outside the classroom for a more individualized instruction. These tiered systems are characterized by continuous monitoring and acquisition of data that allows for dynamic movement between tiers, instead of just once every grading cycle. Basically, whereas other systems might only really look at a student once every 8 to 10 weeks, this uses a continuous system of measurement that lets people know in real time, or as close to real time as possible, what's going on. Formal referral, which is the next step, is a very serious step indicating a student may actually need special education services. Specific timelines and protocols are outlined by the federal and state law, which dictate processing and procedure that should be followed to make sure everything goes right. You'll have to consult with your individual counselors and schools to figure out exactly what that is, as the book doesn't really go into it. However, first eligibility, submission of evidence, and a formal written referral and formation of an IEP team is done. The evidence must be gathered specifically, as we'll discuss later. Specific written documents that exactly identify the issues involved or precisely are needed to be submitted by the teacher. Now, this is the kind of thing where instead of just saying so-and-so, we'll say Matthew because it's my middle name, is instead of just saying that Matthew is a jerk and bullies other students, they need to say that Matthew talks out of turn 75% of the time, seems compulsed to touch other students without being asked, etc., 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 using extremely specific language and dates. Information is reviewed by the screening committee, parents are contacted, and suggestions for further information may be made or formal assessment may be sought. Parental permission is needed before the formal assessment can really go forward. The areas of deficit are mild mental retardation, sensory impairment, physical impairment, full learning disability, emotional disturbance, or attention deficit. This isn't exactly an exhaustive list, but it's the most common. And I suggest you go through the books and classes to see books in the class to see exactly more information. But generally, things go from pre-referral, diagnosis of specific disability, and formal referral. And again, here are the generalized types of disability. The questions you want to ask to kind of get the idea of is this an actual thing that needs to be dealt with or not. Basically, it often comes down to, if you have a concern, bringing it up to the people who know and documenting what you find very specifically and carefully. You can't just go in there with wild accusations and no evidence. Evidence is necessary, so make sure you gather it. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day.